So today we're gonna talk about a little bit of a recap of what last month looked like. So I know not everybody was here. I know London was traveling and Harry wasn't here either. But we had a great time. I don't know about you guys, but did anybody else enjoy this theme so far? Yeah, man. So the very first time that we had the real relationship first sermon, we talked about that in every single one of us had our first relationship with our parents, or at least a significant other that we grew up with. It could have been an uncle or our grandparents. But we all experience relationships from the moment that we're in our mother's womb. So if you are here, that means that your mother had you for, at the very least, probably 5 months. Because I know that there has been some premature babies here. Like Tony, I think it was 5 months, right? And we talked about a developmental period in relationships. And the moment you're in your mother's womb, you're already receiving love and affection, and you get to hear your mother's voice. And at some point, you start hearing your dad's voice, which is this guy right here. I'm not your dad, but I'm saying Gabby's dad, you know? And I remember I used to talk to Gabby all the time in her belly, so hoping that when she, came out of her belly, that she would recognize her dad's voice. But from the very moment that you are in your mother's womb, you're already experiencing a relationship with your mother, which is pretty amazing. Now, we also talked about how a lot of our fractures growing up come also from our parents and our families. Because of certain, perhaps, let's just be honest, we all deal with stuff, right? We all have things that we wish we were better in. And it's going to come to a point where you will also perhaps hurt your children. Now, the good thing about us being Christian and us loving God is that the Word of God said for everybody that, loves God, everything turns for their favor. And in my particular case, as you already know, grew up in a divorced family, and I wouldn't change it for anything. I tell you, I will do it all over again if I had to, the growing pain and all, but it made me who I am today. And I don't know if anybody here in the house is not happy with who you are today, but let me tell you that God is going to use that. God has a reason and a purpose for everything that's happened to you in the past, and He's going to use that as long as you let Him be that influence in your life. He can use your experiences to bless other people. So our first foundation of the real relationship was your past relationships, and how has that affected you? Now, what happens is that if you don't deal with those past relationships, you drag that to your future relationships. So if your previous relationships, they give you, for example, a lack of self-esteem, a lack of trust, a lack of belonging, when you go into a new relationship and you haven't dealt with those things in your past, you bring that into the relationship and it affects the person that you're going to be eventually with. But that's not just a significant other or a future boyfriend, girlfriend, or wife. It also affects you with your friends, with your teachers. It affects you with your coworkers, with your bosses. If you cannot take direction from somebody because you always were defiant because that's the way that you can cope with things, you haven't dealt with your past relationships. So it is so important to look into your heart and go back to the beginning. So then we talked about that the two most important relationships. Now, this is obviously what God has given me. Everybody has a different opinion and, but this particular group of people that God allowed me to, speak to, He revealed to me that the most important relationships are the relationship that you have with God, first of all, and the second most important is the relationship that you have with yourself. Now, going back to the developmental period, the things that might have hurt you growing up and fractured you, the reason why you want to have a good relationship with yourself is because you're not ready to love someone else until you learn how to love yourself. I'm going to say that one more time because I don't know if everybody understood it. You're not ready to love someone else until you learn how to love yourself. because relationships are not about what you can get out of other people, but what you can give to the people that is going to be your significant other. So we talked about that, and obviously, if anybody here is not currently having a relationship with God, it is really hard for you to also have a relationship with yourself. Part of loving yourself is knowing who created you. Part of loving yourself is knowing that He has a purpose and a future for you. And part of loving yourself is knowing that even with all the imperfections that you might see in the mirror, God has a reason for all of those things. So you cannot find identity on things out there in the world and be like, well, I have a group of friends and they're all cool and I feel good with them, so I'm going to identify with those people the moment those people leave you because they don't think you're cool enough anymore, or because you go into church tomorrow and you don't curse anymore, you don't do this, or you're like, oh, you're too conservative and you stop being too cool, then your identity goes with those people. Yeah. And then we talked about the 5 love languages. Now, why is this important? I'll tell you why. I grew up in a country where I only spoke Spanish. I took English classes, and they taught me how to say hi. How are you? Good, fine, thank you. That does not happen in the real world. It doesn't. No conversation goes like that. The first time someone say, hey, what are you doing? Like, what? That's not what I was taught when I was growing up. What does it even mean? Like, how you doing? What is that? Doing means to do something. Like, what? My point is, if you speak French and you speak English and none of you understand each other, there's going to be a lack of communication. And for there to be effective love communication, you have to know the people around you. Why is this important? Because it's not just your significant other, it's your coworkers. If you want to effectively do what God asks us to do, which is serve one another and love one another, it also takes a little bit of work and practice to figure out how people feel loved. Like, for example, I know how James feels loved. He likes hugs. He likes to touch. He likes to, fist bump. He sometimes throws himself on top of me and almost makes me fall. But that's the way I know that, because I've formed a relationship with them, and I know that. And essentially, what I'm trying to say is, like, if you pay attention, you will know the way that they show love and probably the way that they receive it as well. And for Priscilla, for example, that's my wife. Why you stop recording? But for my wife, she is all about words, which is, like, honestly, it sounds like a really easy job to do, but sometimes it's not. But words is, like, the biggest thing. Like, she loves words. And the reason why I say that it sounds like it's the easiest thing is because I could literally tell you a whole sentence of how much you mean to me, how beautiful you are and everything, and literally not mean it, and it will still speak to her. She'll be like, oh my God. And that's why there's girls out there that get their heart broken because, well, I'm just going to say, I'm the kind of person, me personally, that, like, you tell me you love me, it's like, that's cool, bro, but you better show me, because, like, that has no way for me. But we're all different. We're all different, and that's the beauty of it. And knowing what her love language is helps me communicate my love effectively to her. And how many of you know what the love languages are? We got 2 people in the house, 3? All right, just give me one.
Quality time, which is my favorite.
Quality time, which is her favorite.
Words.
Words. Back to back. Give me just one. Pow.
Acts of service.
Acts of service. That's my thing right there. I'm just gonna open up. The reason why, and I think growing up, physical touch meant more to me because the affection and everything, like, it just spoke to me differently. But the more I grew up as a Christian, and the more I learned about Jesus, I learned that it was all about service. Like, he came and he gave his life as a service. And it just speaks to me differently. Like, the other day I got home and my wife had just cleaned the whole house, and I had just come here from a long day of work, and he's just like, babe, you don't know how much this means to me. Like, it just gives me a clear mind, and I'm just so grateful for you. And she was happy because of what I said. I was happy for what she did. And next thing you know, we're all loving each other. But the problem is like when, for example, James is working 70 hours a week for his future wife. Hopefully that's not the case, but he's showing love with act of service. And then his wife is like, well, you haven't told me I'm pretty. And it's like, girl, I've been working 70 hours, not enough? It's like, no, you haven't called me pretty. So it's so important, guys, to know your love languages and to effectively look at the people around you and be like, that person's having a bad day. And you may come to that person. Obviously, there is boundaries to everything. There is, things that you got to be careful for. Like, for example, I cannot just go to any girl and give her a hug and grab their shoulder. Like, you have to be conscious of the people around you. But say, for example, if it's me and Aaron and, like, we're boys, we're friends, like, I'll give him a hug and there's nothing wrong with that. But you just got to know where the boundaries lie. And then know how to show your love in a way that still respects people's boundaries. And now, being remix night and knowing all this kind of things, like, it got me to realize that the topic of relationship is way too broad to be just finished here. So, anybody here open to keep talking about relationships for a little bit longer? Yeah. All right. Now, I got I kind of have an idea of what the next theme is going to look like. I'm not going to reveal it yet, but I'm really, really excited. And I will tell you this. Don't be God's stumbling block. And this applies to so many things in our lives. Like, I'm gonna share something with you guys because you guys have been here from the very beginning. And you guys are family to me and my wife. But you guys remember when I first spoke about my older job and how God showed me all the places he had put me before. And he told me, why don't you think I can do it again? I was in a place 6 months ago where I was in doubt. And I was like, God, I have no idea how you're going to do it again. Like, there's no way you're going to find a way to give me a job that's going to make me more money and not be stuck for 60, 70 hours a week. God gives me an opportunity. I pray about it and I ask God, give me direction. If this is meant to be for me, open the door. If not, please close it. I don't want to do anything that is not under your will. Sometimes we think our interests and our goals and what we want to do is better than the creator of the universe. Like, why do we think this? And it's a human nature, but why do we think that we can outdo God's work, right? So I pray, God opens the door, everything happens. I failed my exam twice. And I'm here like, wow, like, God, you open the door, why am I failing? Like, am I not smart enough? Am I not good enough? And then on the third try, after obviously putting the time and the effort, you're supposed to do that. You're supposed to put your time and effort. You're supposed to do what you're supposed to do. What you're not supposed to do is do God's work. And God, basically, right before I take my exam, I'm praying, and I'm telling God, it's like, look, I tried it differently. I tried studying right before taking the exam, and it didn't work. I failed again. Right now, I just choose to spend some time with you and pray. God reveals to me in that moment, it's like, where I'm trying to take you, you cannot rely on your own strength and in your own understanding. As long as you always give me the glory and the honor, you're not going to fail. Take the exam, pass it. Guys, probably this was the day before my birthday, and I asked my wife. I told my wife, what is it that you want for your birthday? She asked me, and I was like, I just want to pass this exam. I'm so ready for what's on the other side of the door. So, pass the exam. I put in my 2 weeks at Mullinex Ford. The most, it was like a weight off my shoulders. Because you guys, most of you might not know this or understand this yet, but when you work so much and you don't have enough time to devote to the things that you want and the things that you love, and that can also be with school and like too many responsibilities, it starts like putting a weight on your shoulders. She knows this because we were kind of going through the same thing at the same time. And the only thing that I wanted, it was like, God, I'm not trying to get a bunch of money. Like, that's not what I want. I just want quality time with my family. I put in my 2 weeks, and I started this new journey. And I can tell you right now, I'm on the other side of the door. I'm on the other side of the blessing. And I share this because I want you to know that this isn't any different than what you may be going through right now. But the thing about it is that you cannot expect things to, first of all, go according to the way you think they're going to work out. You also have to ask God for guidance, because if maybe I passed my exam the first try, maybe I wouldn't appreciate where I'm at right now, you know? And it took me until the very third time so that God can be like, you cannot rely on your own understanding. Like, you can just study for hours and think that it's all about you. Like, from this point forward, it's going to get hard. So when he told me this, and I told my wife, when somebody tells you you cannot rely on your own strength and understanding, and you're like, hallelujah, glory to God, but you start really understanding those words, what does that mean? It means it's going to get difficult. It means it's going to get hard. And it's going to come to a point where you're like, God, I cannot do this. And he's going to be like, that's right. That's why I got you. Many situations that we're going to encounter are going to look like that. And me and my wife, almost at the same time, quit our job. We went from making over 6 figures to, at this particular moment, probably making, right now, because I'm going to training, I'm only making $50 an hour right now. With that responsibility, with our kids, with everything that we have going on. And you might ask, no, you're crazy. You're making the wrong move. Am I? Why does God always ask us to believe before we see it? I could tell you, like, okay, yeah, you're going to work for another year, and then once the year passes and we're more established, we're going to do it. But does it take faith? That all that did was all you out of your own strength. And what God revealed to me was like, I need you to trust me. And I'm telling you this because just like what I told you before, I knew it would come to a point where I could tell you and give you my testimony that I'm on the other side. Now, from this point forward to whatever happens next is another testimony. And you guys are living right through everything. And I just pray that this can encourage you to believe in God. That through any situation that you may be going through, you might throw yourself in the water and start walking in water. But the moment you stop looking at God, and it's like, oh, I'm doing this. It's like, start looking at your feet. I don't want you to drown. I want you to believe in God. I want you to be so reassured that God's got your back that you don't fall and drown. So this is just a little bit of my testimony, but Priscilla put in her 2 weeks yesterday, and it's just so crazy. Like, I cannot believe it. It's so amazing because it just frees up so much time that we can get to spend with you guys and, pour into this ministry. And I'm just pumped. Anybody here pumped? And I don't know, God is doing something. I'm hearing a bunch of people quitting their jobs, and God is just, same thing. I'm just here to remind you that God's got your back. However, don't forget to do your part. Don't forget to do your part, because just quitting your job and sitting back and laying in the couch, it ain't gonna do it, bro. That's not gonna do it. Do your part, God will do his. With that being said, this was a recap for today. If you haven't yet watched the Real Relationship sermons and you are curious to know what we spoke about in detail, we have them on YouTube. It's going to be Oasis YTH on our YouTube channel. We want to say thank you for everybody that's watching online, and we're going to be spending some time together here in Fellowship as Remix Night. If you want to ever come to a Remix Night, we're at 2025 Sheeler Avenue, Apopka, Florida. We'd love to have you here. And with that being said, one second. We're just going to start closing off in just a second, but we're just glad that you're here. We love you. You're part of this family as well. And are you guys excited for this month coming up? All right. All right. Guys, I don't know why, but God is just want me to say it one more time. He's got your back. He's got your back. He's got your back. All right. Thank you, guys.